Wuthering Waves officially launched yesterday with servers going live a whole hour before scheduled launch. And as expected of a 1.0 initial release, it was anything but smooth sailing. It must be because of those Wuthering Waves. On the JP side of things, many users reported several different types of bugs, many of which Kuro Games has already implemented fixes for, but still there's a little way to go. But what was JP's overall opinion of the day one Wuthering Waves? I found this on Twitter, which seemed to summarize things well with over 2,200 retweets, 6,500 likes, 1,100 bookmarks, and over 66 comments. So let's dive in, shall we? Now this guy here is an officially recognized Hoyoverse creator with over 40,000 followers on Twitter. So what does he have to say? Wuthering Waves first day impressions. The overall feel, it's about 5 times more like Genshin than what everyone imagined. So what does he mean by that? You choose the main character from a pair of mysterious twins, either male or female. The controls and systems are almost identical. Daily quests, resin usage, he's using the word resins here for the wave plates, leveling up and unlocking limits, character and weapon enhancement and material are all the same. The design of the training ground, i.e. the dungeon, made him laugh, because I'm guessing he thought they were too similar. Being released later, it's more comfortable to use. Climbing cliffs is fast, and dashing in areas without enemies doesn't consume stamina, which is the same as in Elden Ring. However, there are inconveniences such as not being able to configure the keys, having to select each daily completion individually, and a limit of 3 lines per dialogue despite there being more lines. So like even when there are more lines to read, it will only show you the first 3. Even though I can actually see the tops of some letters in the 4th row, it just doesn't show us. So everything gets cut off after the 3rd line. And he also says that the roulette device selector is also hard to use. He also makes note how personally he doesn't mind the similarities, but what's important is whether the game is fun overall, and I completely agree. Overall atmosphere. Initially it's full of incomprehensible jargon, which is common in games like this, but since Wuthering Waves is Chinese themed, it uses a lot of kanji, making it even harder to grasp, and also the character names are also very, very Chinese, which might make it hard for Japanese players to remember. He feels the reason why both Genshin and Star Rail's first regions were Western themed was to make them more accessible to new users, and I have seen that in EN as well, where people are getting confused with all the Chinese terms for things such as long what was that? Such as long instead of just saying dragon. Like, why would you go out of your way to say long when you could just say dragon? Okay, the protagonist is generally a silent type but starts muttering during the detective parts, which made him laugh. Deku-kun, like, it reminds him of Deku from My Hero Academia, with him like just talking to himself like Okay, so the protagonist is a rover from somewhere, and during the voice lines, other characters keep calling them Rover despite being given a name, which is creating a sense of alienation. Isn't that the same in Genshin though? Additionally, even though you give them a name, it doesn't reflect in the dialogue text, and they're still called Rover, which feels off. Here he's talking about the daily system. It's almost the same as Genshin, with stamina being the resin system, wave plate system, and instead of ley lines, the character experience, weapon experience, and gold are obtained in the training ground, i.e. the dungeon. And also you don't get rewards from bosses without resin, just like in Genshin. Dailies are the same as in Honkai Star Rail, where points accumulate as you engage in activities, and the resin consumption and daily quests are the bulk of the daily grind. Onto the gacha. With the gacha, there is a pity system, with 80 pulls being the max. The weapon gacha is amazing because there's no 50-50, and it's guaranteed. Characters can miss the 50-50, but after that they're guaranteed the second time. Again, this is like near identical to Genshin. There's no real difference there. He says the combat system is often compared to Genshin, but honestly it's more like Honkai Impact 3rd. Instead of the elemental reactions, it features a 3-character system with just dodges and switch attacks, parries and such, much like Honkai Impact 3rd. Although I haven't gone too deeply into it, it seems to be a game where you focus on 1 DPS with 2 supports in each team. I mean, that's not entirely true. You can have 1 DPS, 1 sub DPS, and 1 support. You're not forced to do any particular team. You can have all supports if you want to. I wouldn't recommend it, but you can. This is about the Echo system here. We've got the Echo, and the kanji for Echo, which is actually quite interesting. They've got the first kanji here, which is oto, which means sound, and the second kanji here, which is kotsu, which means skeleton. So here, the phrase, the way that they present the idea of an echo to JP players is using this kanji here of an ongai. It's read as ongai. Which means like sound skeleton. Onto the sound skeletons, defeated monsters sometimes leave behind shadows, these are the holograms, which can be equipped. This is quite interesting. So they like this particular system. Not only can you use defeated enemies' skills, like you can take on their form and use their skills, but their stats are also involved. There's likely to be a high level of grind, much like the grinding for the artifacts. I mean, yeah, there was an issue where people thought the grind for echoes was particularly bad during the CPT too. Kuro has released a statement saying that they are implementing changes to lessen the grind. So, okay, honestly, in the late stages, Genshin has no real point to the multiplayer. but this system seems like it could make multiplayer monster hunting fun, even though multiplayer requires rank 22, so they can't do that yet. I mean, even from first impressions, looking at that, you can tell that like running around the open world, running around the overworld with some friends and kind of hunting and killing out all the mobs that you can see, it does seem quite fun. It does bring more of that like multiplayer aspect into the game compared to Genshin, which I don't think I've played multiplayer in Genshin for literally years, except for when I was like forced to for the mini games. But overall review, I think it's a pretty good game, so they like it in general. However, not being able to configure keys is extremely stressful, so I hope they patch it soon. There was a notice sent out by Kuro Games talking about that, saying that when you use a PlayStation controller, you can't really reconfigure, rebind any of the keys, whereas if you have an Xbox controller or if you're playing on keyboard, then you can actually reconfigure. So that's something that they are aware of, that they are going to be working on. Also, the atmosphere is rather dark, so it might not be universally appealing. It might not be appealing to everyone. So some people might not like it being so dark and so like a post-apocalyptic. So some people prefer the lighter tones of Genshin, and that's fine. They're saying here that some people might not like this, and that's why it might put some people off. So that kind of, they think that this can like limit the reach that it could get, the reach of its audience that Wuthering Waves could have gotten if it was a bit brighter and a bit more colorful, should I say. I still don't understand the world. There's no real explanation other than what we've got for the first area. So if other countries are included, are they also Chinese themed? And if they are, I can foresee a lot more difficult kanji coming in the future, which can be quite tough. And overall, it gives the impression of being unrefined. I mean, of course it is. It's the initial release. Of course things are going to be unrefined, but even still, a bug is a bug, so it's fair to point that out. I get it. But what matters is how Kuro responds to that.